huge pleasure to introduce once again, after the success of the last webinar we did with Perry, only, it wasn't long ago, maybe 2 months at the most, which was an incredible and insightful one. We're privileged and so happy to have him back here again. Just got back to the United States after spending the weekend here in London. Feel a little bit under the weather, but still here to deliver some information to you guys. So it's a huge pleasure of mine to introduce Dr. Perry Nickelston. Perry, take it away.
Hey, thank you, brother, and thanks for inviting me back. I wasn't sure I'd come back after that last episode. But yeah, it's great to be back on and to talk about something that's really important to me, and that's just helping people get stronger in their life mentally and physically. And that's one of the reasons why I love Strength Matters, because that's your mission and it just happens to be mine as well. So I'm going to give everybody that's listening a touch of what I talk about in my workshops. And I really sincerely think that if you begin to implement some of these that I'm going to show you, even just one, that you'll make a huge difference in your own strength, especially if you've hit a plateau in your life from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental standpoint, right? Because sometimes I've found that we kind of get in our own way, right? A lot of times we can't get that lift because we're thinking something a certain way or training a certain way. And it's the same thing with our own mental aspect of things. So I'm going to hopefully try to share with you ways that I got out of my own way and my 20-year journey of trying to discover why we hit roadblocks or plateaus. And the funny thing is, when people try to get stronger, it seems like they always try to put more effort into something, figuring that if they go harder, faster, stronger, longer, like hashtag beast mode badass, that it's going to get them from point A to point B faster. But I've actually found the opposite. I found that if you regress to progress and you back off a little bit, you'll actually get where you want to go faster. And that's one of the reasons why I think people don't get as strong as they could be, because that's really counterintuitive. But when you understand the nervous system and your brain and what happens to it when you push it too hard and you go into the survival instinct, hopefully you'll have a new way of looking at your body from now on, and it'll make total sense to you. So I'm not the only crazy one in the room. So I know, Seb, you're going to be flipping through the slides here in a moment, but I love that opening quote. I use it quite a bit, right? Anytime we start something new, it always seems very, very difficult. But if you think about when you start anything new, you'll always go a little slower, right? And you go easier, because if you go fast, you're not going to be able to really kind of understand what you're trying to do, or you're not going to be able to own it in a pattern. So fast, we do what we already know. But when you want to try to form some new patterns in your life, i.e. habits, you have to go a little bit slower. So we take some of these simple things for granted because they seem easy, but at one point for you, they were extremely, extremely difficult and challenging. So we have to remember that when we're trying to go into getting stronger. So I actually tell people, you kind of have to unlearn some of the shit that you've been told. And because the hardest thing to do is unlearn stuff that we've been told that we think that we need to be doing. So I'm going to just give you 3 ways that I guarantee you will take the brakes off what you want to do. Now let's get into it. So for those that might be listening that are not familiar with who I am, my name is Dr. Perry Nickelston, and I'm a doctor of chiropractic, but I don't really do that so much anymore. I'm more a student of human movement, and I got into that about 10 years ago after being a practicing chiropractor for 20. And my whole mission right now of looking into movement and helping people get stronger was looking into why people got pain in the first place. And, pain doesn't really tell you a whole lot about what's going on. But here's the thing about pain, too. When you have pain, your nervous system is going to shut down. It's going to put the brakes on. So you're not going to be able to develop strength. But what most people don't realize is that even when the pain goes away and nothing hurts anymore, your nervous system on a non-conscious level, a subconscious level, is actually still fearful of getting hurt and getting injured. So it's going to put the brakes on your strength, whether you realize it or not. Even if you're consciously saying to yourself, I want to go strong and I want to hit my personal best on a deadlift, your nervous system it's got a different agenda. And I always jokingly say that your brain is smarter than you are. that it's got your best interest at heart down deep, because we do stupid shit all the time from the things that we think. And then these deep primal drivers kick in to help protect you. And then basically my whole mantra is with the next slide is that where you think it is, it ain't. And that's in regards to the same way with pain, with discomfort. Seb, can you flick the next one for me?
Yes, buddy.
To Ida, the hotness of Ida. So she's wicked smart, that one. Where do you think it is? It ain't. And that should, spelling is a little bit off there, but that's in two different ways. From pain, it's definitely the case. You know, I mean, I never just look where your side of pain is. I actually look everywhere else first. But it's also the same way with strength. Like I was saying before, it's when you think you want to get stronger, you try to lift things more and heavier. I'm saying that kind of ain't it. So we flank it a little bit and we come from a different direction, and what I call the crazy path direction, and usually get where you want to go. And the last slide before we get into it is what pain is, and what a lack of the ability to obtain strength is, or power. It's a request for change. So when you have pain, that's your body tapping on your shoulder saying, hey, dumbass, I need you to change something because I'm hurting here. And the biggest thing you can change is how you think and how you move. And that's also how you're going to be able to change strength. Holy cow, imagine that. If I can get you to think differently, I'm automatically going to make you stronger. And you'll see that with the WTF test that I'm going to walk you through in a moment. But also in regards to how you move. Because if I get you to move differently, I'm going to teach your body how to pattern more muscle together. And when your body works more efficiently, you need less effort to accomplish a given task. So if you're approaching the bar to do a deadlift, for instance, and you're not moving efficiently, it's going to take you more effort to lift the bar. But if I show you some of these things that you can do to tap into what we call a neurological efficiency. That's communication between your brain and your body. So everybody fires and everybody synchronizes at the right time, because this is all about timing. Strength is about timing. If your timing is off, you're not going to be as strong as you could be. So I'm actually going to show you how most people now have one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake at the same time. So it's not so much that I'm going to show you how to press more on the gas pedal, because that's the easy part. What I want to do is have you take your foot off the brake, because if you take your foot off the brake, what happens? You naturally go faster without having to put more pressure on the gas pedal, if that makes sense. So let's talk about what is strength. All right. So, I mean, there's so many definitions of what strength can be. There's strength of character, there's strength of integrity, there's strength of muscles. And I think Seb needs to wake up over there. Flip that side, brother. There you go.
I need the order, pal. I need the order.
So what is strength? I'll tell you the way I think of strength, and hopefully this will actually show up, because it's like a fly-in animal thing that's going to drop from the top. So if you click your button there, Seb, let's see if it goes in. Kabam! Right. So strength to me is the ability to absorb, direct, disperse, and generate force, right? Force control is strength and is power. And in order to generate strength, you have to have mobility in your body first, right? So you got to be able to actually move, but then you have to actually be able to control that movement. And that's what we call stability. But it's actually not stability per se. It's what we call motor control, because stability means that's a resistance to movement. So what happens, a lot of people become over stiff. They call it super stiffness. They become so stable that they don't even move that well. And that happens a lot. So when we're looking at synchronization, we have to look at a nice yin and yang relationship between mobility and strength. And I always tell everybody I'm a stability guy first, because you can have all the mobility in the world, but you aren't going to do shit with it if you can't control it. So mobility without stability and motor control is extremely dangerous. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to tell you, if you do a lot of mobility work before you want to try to do a big strength move, you're actually setting yourself up to get really, really hurt, and you're actually shutting down the power generation from your nervous system because you're making yourself extremely vulnerable. So I talk about that vulnerability word a lot. When your body feels vulnerable, it's not going to allow you to become optimally strong for power output. So I'm going to defer to Lord Vader here on the next slide with this fantastic quote that he said. And stability always precedes force production. What's force production? Strength. So I think about it this way. If you're going to deadlift that bar, would you want it on a stable surface like the ground, or would you want it on a canoe? So if you don't have the stability, you're not going to be able to generate force anywhere. So actually, I have to give really true credit to who said that. It wasn't Lord Vader. It was actually Paul Chek. So Paul Chek said that, and he's kind of a lord in and of himself because he's one of the preeminent first people to really get into functional training before it was quote unquote the cool thing to do. And that's one of his quotes about shooting a cannon from a canoe. If you don't have stability and you're trying to generate power, it's like shooting a cannon from a canoe. You're just not going to be able to control anything. So we're going to talk about stability from a standpoint of safety in the brain, but stability in a standpoint between how your body communicates and explodes power from inside out, not outside in, which is very, very important. So the next slide is a really great one also by my friend Brandon Marcello. And it says, what's perceived as a deficiency in strength might be, and I don't think it might, I think it always is, should be put in there, the result of the body protecting itself. Seek first to fix what is being protected. That's a brilliant statement right there, right? Because potential strength is always there for you. Your body is ready and willing to give you a lot of full throttle juice, but it holds back on it all the time because it's trying to protect itself. So let's think like your brain. It's something I use all the time. Why in the world would your body give you less strength? So just think about that for a second. Because it knows if it gives you full strength output, you're going to hurt yourself. So its main goal in life is, one, not to get hurt, but two, its ultimate goal is a pretty good one. It's not to be dead, because being dead sort of sucks because you can't deadlift when you're dead. You're just dead. That's not the option you want to go for. So when I look at it, I'm looking at your strength from not your muscles. I'm looking at the strength from your brain, because your muscles obey what the brain tells it to do. So if I can help you get out of your own way by how you think and with how you move, you're going to be ungodly strong right out of the gate. And in the beginning, people said, Doc, I don't know, this is some crazy stuff. I think you're full of shit. And I'm like, that's cool. That's all right. Sometimes I am. But this time I'm actually not. And this is the one where at the end, I'm going to tell you exactly what I want you to do for a benchmark, so you can see, okay, this is before, this is afterwards. And then I'll give you my email, so you can send me an email and say, hey, Doc, I'm sorry I doubted you. I thought you were batshit crazy. Now I know you were right. So I'll give that to you at the end. So let's move to the next one, because I'm going to preface it up for the WTF test. How you think consciously and non-consciously changes your biology. So how you think about something and how you don't even know you're thinking about something actually changes your physiology and your biology. So let's take that for a second. What happens if you're sitting in the tranquil calmness of your house, and then all of a sudden you think about this event that was very stressful in your life even 10 years ago? Maybe somebody hurt you, or it was somebody stressed you out. What happens to your body? Your body reacts like you're actually physically there. So your pulse rate changes. You may start to sweat. Your hormones get to surge. And trust me, if you want to be strong, you better tap into hormones. So you're going to change that by how you're thinking. But what I'm going to tap into is the non-conscious part. The non-conscious part is the survival primal part that's putting the brakes on to try to protect you. That one you don't know is working in the background. And that's the one I'm trying to prime into with some of the three. So these three things I'm giving you, I usually give people a ton more, but these are going to get the conscious and the non-conscious aspects. So when you see this brain lifting that barbell, that's about 100% right, because you're only as strong as your brain lets you be. Your brain is always asking itself, is it really a good idea right now for me to give Perry strength? If the answer is no, you ain't getting it. If it's yes, then you are. So how is it going to give it to you? If you feel stable, yes. But now, from now on, I want you to not use the word stability when you think about stability training. I would like for you now to use another S word. I want you to place it, the word safety. So if the brain and the body feels safe, it will allow you to generate power. It will allow you to generate strength. It will give you what you're looking for. If it doesn't feel safe, it won't. So safety and stability are interchangeable. But if you think of safety instead of stability, that will really help you understand the concept that I'm going for here. And you'll see it when we get into the WTF test. So really quick, why this matters in movement, because I'm a big fan of Moshe Feldenkrais, and this is one of his quotes that he says that, pardon me, I'm fighting a little bit of a sickness. Seb, flip that slide for me.
Gosh.
Wake you. Am I putting you to sleep over there?
No, you need to actually talk to me. We ain't no Jedi, buddy.
I thought you were, man. The Force was with you. Force
I'm a
is strong
Sith.
with you.
I'm a Sith. I'm the Sith.
Gotcha. All right. So Moshe said there's always a brain component to a movement difficulty, and he was right. So with all the movement stuff that I'm trying to do with people in my courses, I'm just trying to tap into your noggin. Light up some of these dendrites in your head so we can get you explosive with power. And the next one is going to be from the guy who inspired me to get into bodybuilding. And I think this is one of the reasons why he was one of the greatest. Yes, he had unbelievable genetics. But even with good genetics, if you don't tap into the power of your mind, you're not getting where you want to go. And if you watch the movie Pumping Iron, you'll know what I'm talking about, of how he defeated Lou Ferrigno before Lou Ferrigno even stepped on the stage, because he made Lou Ferrigno doubt himself. So true champions know that most gold is won from the neck up, from the mind, right? It's how you think, but it's also when you're about ready to quit, when your body wants to give up, that your mind doesn't. So the next slide is going to be from the one and only Austrian oak, Arnold Schwarzenegger. The mind will always fail first, every single time, not the body. The secret is to make your mind work for you, not against you. And that's what I'm going to go over right here with the WTF test. It's something that I do in every one of my workshops. It's actually the very first thing we did in London this past weekend. And I call it the WTF test, which is the next slide. Hopefully you guys know what that means. I think that's a universal what the F, because most people say those words when they do this test. So Seb, you can flip to the WTF one. There you go. All right. I'll let you guys use your imagination on there, but I'm going to walk you through what this is. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to need somebody with you when you do it. So one person's going to be the tester, one's going to be the testee. So I want you to think of, in this situation, where your client would be the one that you're going to be testing, and that you're going to be the tester. All right. And then when you have somebody do this to you so you can experience it, you reverse it. This is probably one of the most powerful things that I do for anyone that I see, because it helps show them how their biology completely changes based on their mode of thinking. So you need to do this with people who have pain, because when they have pain, they're fearful of pain. They feel vulnerable with pain. Even when pain goes away, and an athlete, for instance, has had an ACL injury, trust me, when they've got surgery and full range of motion and rehab, and they're told that you can go back to play, they are still fearful of the knee going out again. And that thought process is going to affect their strength. And we also do it with an athlete that has hit a plateau. So if you have someone that is trying to get harder, faster, stronger, longer, and no matter what they do, they can't get past it, this I want them to do because it's going to hit home about how self-responsibility is going to come into play. This is very valuable for people that are listening that treat people in pain, but it's also when you're helping people to try to change their life, right? I mean, because it's ultimately up to them and to change their habits. So if you actually think that you're changing another person's life, you're not, because they have to change it, and they need to be able to see the power of their thought or the power of their self-doubt. And once you see how powerful this test is, why in God's name would you ever let another human being have that kind of power over you? So here's what you're going to do. You're going to do it two different kind of scenarios in the mind. For general purposes, you're going to do to your person the muscle test here. The person that you're going to test, they're going to stand with their feet about shoulder width apart. They're going to put their arms out by their side like they're an airplane getting ready to fly, right? And then you're going to stand behind them, and you're going to put your hands on their forearm or their wrist. And all I want you to do is to start off nice and easy, and I want you to begin to press their arms down to the ground, and they just have to resist. And I don't care what they do to try to resist. They can hold their breath, they can cheat, they can not breathe, they can squeeze sphincters. I don't care what they do. They can make a fist. Just hold it up in the air, right? And then what you're going to do is this. You're going to instill something in their mind. You're going to mess with their mind. So I do this a few different ways. I say to them, I want you to think about someone in your life that's a negative vampire bloodsucker. Somebody that when you actually think about them, your heart goes black. And I jokingly say that if anybody in this room is in a relationship, this should be a very easy one for you. But it could be anybody alive or dead. Doesn't matter. But they have to lock in on that person in their mind, right? So what happens is if they lock into that person on their mind and you stand behind them and have them put their arms out again, and then I want you to push down, and they can do whatever they want to do to hold it, they will physically not be able to resist you. The arms will drop like a rock, and they're going to go to them. They'll start laughing, and they'll go, WTF. They'll actually say it, because the nervous system feels vulnerable from the negative input, and it's going to put a brake on strength. So if you didn't want to use a person that's negative, you could use, for an athlete, you could use the lift that they're having trouble with. You could use the competitor that they're trying to go up against. You could use anything, their self-doubt. If somebody's in pain, I have them visualize the pain. I say, I want you to think about your low back hurting. As soon as they zero on that, the body shuts down. Now, here's the rub. I'm going to instantaneously give you more strength by changing your thought process. So now we're going to reverse it. Now we actually tell the person, I want you to think of someone in your life that is an inspiration, not just a positive figure, but an inspiration. When you think of this person, your soul brightens. You just feel the world is a better place. Your heart is happy. It could be someone alive or dead. Now they visualize that person, and they forgot about the negative person. And you have to give them a moment to focus on it. Then you're going to stand behind them, have them put their arms out again. And then you're going to press down. And what you will find is they are probably going to be the strongest they've ever been, even stronger than the first time you tested them before they thought negative. So instantaneously, I made you stronger. Why is that? Because you didn't do any training in between that time that you sucked at your strength to the time that you own it. The reason being is that your nervous system doesn't feel vulnerable, and now it's going to give you power output. And then they're going to say WTF again. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to mess with them, right? Now you're going to say, I want you to think of that negative person again. The negative person is back, and they just kick the shit out of the person that you really, really like. And then the negative person is back. And then put your arms out again, and then push down, and then instantaneously they'll get weak again. In a split second, they're going to be strong as they've ever been. And the next split second, they're going to be weak, and they can't hold it up no matter what they do. That is showing you the power of the mind. And when somebody realizes how it affects your physiology. So remember that slide where I told you how you think changes your biology. So if you know that, that's going to be very powerful tools for you when you come and go into a competition, when you come and you go into rehab, when you come and you're going up to get into that deadlift. If you have a doubt in your mind that you're not going to be able to get that bar up, you are not going to be able to get that bar up. If you think that your competitor who's beat you the last 2 times is still going to best you for the 3rd time, guess what? They're going to best you for the 3rd time. And sports psychologists make a living by trying to help get you out of your own way. But this is the most powerful way that I've ever seen anybody to be able to take back control of their life from strength, because you learn from kinetic input, touch, feel, and movement. I can tell you all day long to think positive, but once you see what happens to your strength and how you think, it's going to send it home. So I really want you to implement this from a standpoint of people that you're working with a plateau. And when regards to pain, I actually do it this way. So I say, I want you to focus on that pain that you had is gone. You're strong. You can do this. Your range of motion is back. You're on the field. You're playing better than you did before. The knee doesn't hurt, for instance. And then you test them and they get strong. And then you tell them, think about your knee hurting again. And then it goes weak. So it's going to help them get out of their own head and get out of their own way. And usually when I do this, people are blown away. And some of the ones that even doubt it, I say to them, well, you know what you're probably going to be doing later on today? Every single one of you listening to this test, you're going to get it done to yourself, but I guarantee you, you're going to do it to somebody else. This is what you need to do with every single client that you're seeing. Does that make sense? Right? So WTF comes first, because if I don't get the mind under control, there is no way I'm going to be able to get the body under control to do that. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. So this is the one from my friend Paul McElroy, who is one of the most brilliant people that I've ever met. Go get the door. And he said, strength isn't built, it's granted to you by your nervous system. So now you know what that means. The nervous system is granting you strength by how you think and by how you. So that's what the WTF test is. Next slide. That should say hellacious strength, by the way. So number 1, I'm going to just curse on here because I can. Don't get mind fucked, right? Don't let your mind mess with you. Control your thoughts. That's number 1. Number 2, 40% of muscle force transmission is due to fascia. So fascia is wrapped all around your body, right? Everywhere in your body. So we're going to tap into fascia to help make you stronger with the muscles of your body. So all the muscles that you have, right, are wrapped in fascia, and we're going to learn how to sequence them together, or what we call synchronize them together. And how we're going to do that is by a law. So the next slide is going to talk about the law of irradiation. This is something that people in the kettlebell world are familiar with. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. It's otherwise known as fascial tensioning, where you're using tension in the body to actually harness strength. So the law of irradiation is kind of like a domino effect, where if you look at this picture, if you squeeze something really, really hard with your right hand, you start to fire muscles in a domino pattern. So it would work up my forearm, and then it would go into the bicep, deltoid, upper trap, then all the way over down into your core and to the opposite side of your body. And that's one of my favorite representations of showing people how if you have pain on one side of the body, you have to check the opposite side of the body. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a clinical pearl here that most people don't know about. That if you have elbow tendonitis, if you have elbow pain, so let's say, for instance, this person here has pain in their right elbow. That's called lateral epicondylitis. And it's a bitch to get better because most people just treat the elbow. The biggest cause of pain in the elbow is inhibition and weakness or miscommunication across your body to your opposite side glute max. So now you can see why. if you just held a weight out by your right side, when it started to get fatigued, you would do what? You would lean to your left and put stability on your left hip. But what if you don't have stability in your left hip? Then that means you're going to gain more stability from gripping harder. So the key to elbow pain is a freebie is to check your opposite ass cheek. You're welcome very much. So we're going to tie that fascial tensioning here, and I'm going to show you how you do that with grip. This is something I talked about at one of the Strength Matter Summits when we were at the UK, and I did it in San Diego, and it was one of the more popular ones. So the next slide, I'm going to show you 2 different pictures and how you can tap into this. So now we'll flip it again. So this is called the Performance Front Arm Chain with Thomas Myers. Thomas Myers, who wrote a book called The Anatomy Trains, like trains on a track. If you don't have that book, I highly encourage you to go to Amazon and buy it, and then you'll be able to see representations like this. This picture is actually from Rock Tape, who I teach for. So you've got fascial tensioning that goes from your hand, so that's the palm of your hand, going up into your forearm, up into your bicep, going into your pec minor and your subclavius. Then if you flip the slide, the next one, you've got what's called your back line. Your back line is going to be from your mid-trap, your neck, down to your tricep, down to the back of your hand, okay? So now what I want you to do is to flip, if you can, back to the other side, to the first slide with the arm chain. I want you guys to try something with your grip. So when you change your grip, you're going to change where you're pulling fascial tensioning from. So one of the muscles are designed to pull, not push. Muscles never push, they can only pull. So I want to try to teach you how to harness your posterior sling, which is your glute max, your latissimus dorsi, and your thoracolumbar fascia. That's your back chain. Your back chain comes into play with most everything you're doing, and particularly with a plank, a push-up, a deadlift, a bench press. It's mostly back chain that you want to tap into. So here's what I want you to do. If you can stand up now, or when you hear this, I want you to stand up. And I want you to put your arms by your side, and I want you to make a light fist with your hands. And what I want you to do is to mostly squeeze with your thumb, your index finger, and your middle finger. So 80% of your grip should be coming from the 3 fingers there, not so much your pinky and your ring finger. So arms are down by your side, and I want you to slowly increase and squeeze the tension in those 3 fingers. And you should be feeling it travel up the outside part of your forearm. If you squeeze even harder, it goes into your bicep. If you squeeze even harder, it goes into your chest, and you should feel like your shoulders round forward, or they come up, and you feel a lot of tension in your neck. Now relax. That's a way that you feel the law of irradiation, the law of fascial tensioning. Now we're going to tap into the posterior chain. And whenever you're going to do a pull-up, a bench press, or a push-up, you want mostly your ass and your lat doing it for you. So how much of that did you feel when you squeezed with those 3 fingers? Probably not a lot. It probably felt like you were caving in on yourself or imploding. You probably felt very vulnerable coming into yourself. Now I want to open you up into a powerhouse position of extension. So here's what you do. Now you're going to squeeze with 80% of your force from the outside 2 fingers. So your pinky and your ring finger, and that's where you're going to get tension from. So now start to squeeze light and then go harder. You should feel it go towards the inside part of your forearm. When you squeeze even more, it goes up through your tricep. And if you squeeze even harder, you should feel like you're packing your shoulders back and down, and your lat and your mid-trap and everything pulls back, locking that posterior sling into a stability. So you go boom, you lock it back into beast mode badass posture. And then think about how that position would empower you to do a deadlift. So if you were, let's try this. So let's put your hands up over your head now, and envision there's the pull-up bar in front of you that you're going to have to do some pull-ups, right? You got the bar there, you got to do 10 pull-ups. So I don't care if you have overhand or underhand grip. Put your hands up over your head. We're going to do the same thing. I want you to squeeze with your thumb, your index finger, and your middle finger. 80%, go. Where do you feel it go? Go hard as you can. You should feel like you have tension in your bicep, in your shoulders, and in your neck. Imagine trying to pull yourself up that way. Or imagine trying to pull a barbell off the floor that way. Or do a seated row, right? Anything like that for your back. Now, I want you to put your hands back up and do the pinky finger and the ring finger. Do 80% on each one. 80-80, squeeze hard. And as soon as you squeeze hard, what you should feel is you pack your lat back and down. The whole chain irradiates from your lat down to your ass. So that, boom, imagine doing that and then doing a pull-up or doing a deadlift or doing a push-up or a row or a pull. So changing your grip like that will instantaneously change your strength. Why? Because you're tapping into the power of the law of irradiation and synchronization, powering in the posterior chain. And then we go to the next one. I'm going to give you an extra freebie. This is where we're going to get into the deep core chain. So the deep core chain is where the inner thigh is going to be the powerhouse of core stability and strength. And we all know how we love the inner thigh. So Seb, if you can flip to the deep core chain one, unless Seb is playing with his inner thigh, he might be, right? So this is Thomas Meyer's deep core chain. And these are all the muscles that give you primary stability. If these guys don't work well, you are unstable, you are vulnerable, and you are not going to be able to generate strength, power, and speed. It just ain't happening. So the biggest one we're going to pay attention to here are the adductors, right above the posterior tibialis and below the pelvic floor. So if you squeeze your legs together, that actually engages your core. So one of the biggest tips I give to people in regards to trying to tap into strength is to tap into the power of your adductors. And if you ever have somebody who's doing a pull-up, for instance, so let's go back to the pull-ups. You can hold the bar, then you can, now you know you squeeze with the outside two fingers, but here's what I want you to do. Now I want you to actually cross your legs at the ankles. And when you cross your legs at the ankles, right, you can do a couple different things. I'm going to show you two different ways you can do it. If you cross your legs at the ankles and then you try to push your ankles apart, you try to push your feet apart like that, right? So if you cross your legs and you push against your ankles, you're going to feel your inner thigh engage and you're going to feel your ass engage. So what you did was you just tapped into the power of fascial tensioning from up high and down low. So you will automatically do a better pull-up when you do that. And if you tap into the power of the inner thigh, that's why people who do sit-ups and crunches and they squeeze a ball between their knees, they can go harder, faster, stronger, longer because they're tapping into centralized tensioning. I mean, you can even try that now. If you're sitting or standing and you just cross your legs and you try to push them apart, you're going to feel that your core engages. So just get that little bit of a central lock. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Dan John even had a cool video on this of how you can do that little test, a little separation, and then you can do a better pull up that way. And for the world of discomfort and pain, anybody who's listening, I actually put a strip of kinesiology tape. I take a strip of rock tape in particular, and I run it along the entire inner thigh from the inside of the knee all the way up to as high up into the groin that's comfortable. So the tape actually gives you proprioceptive neurological feedback to the inner thigh, so you actually get stronger. And another clinical side note, that's probably one of the easiest ways that I've seen to help somebody improve an overhead squat is to tape the inner thigh. So next slide, that's going to wrap up number 2. So number 2 ways to get instantaneously strong. Take advantage of fascial tensioning with your grip and with the inner thigh. Now, the last one is going to be a picture of me. These are actually 2 things that are going to be from my upcoming book going over that you can stimulate in the body to increase lymphatic flow, but also tap into your nervous system. So I'm really big into Eastern approaches to the body and medicine, in particular some with acupuncture. And around the center of the body, you've got what's called this conception vessel. And the conception vessel is extremely powerful. And if you are tired or fatigued or have a lack of strength or mental awareness, you're going to have some issues with strength, and you're going to have some hormone issues for sure. And there's a few key points that you can stimulate along the conception vessel. And I teach them in my workshops. They're actually called Chapman points, Chapman. And I have the Chapman points in my upcoming book. And they are also on my membership website, where I show you videos of how to treat, assess, and test for all the Chapman points of your body. And if you speak to anybody who was at the UK Primal Movement Change workshop, they'll tell you how powerful these things are. And I'm just going to give you two. There's about 15, but here's two. You're going to actually stimulate along the conception vessel with your fingertips, or you can do it with your knuckles. You can just rub very vigorously, and you're going to go all along your entire sternum, from your SC joint, which is the inside part of your collarbone, all the way down to the top of your abdominals, what they call your xiphoid process, that big bone, like the solar plexus. I want you to rub in that region from rib to rib and push rather hard. You will feel areas that can be extremely tender, almost like you want to vomit, like somebody just stabbed you. Here's one for you, Seb, with a lightsaber, right? And then it can usually I like to use the thumb, but if the more tender it is, the more you're going to need it. And those points actually coincide with your diaphragm. So if somebody has some breathing issues or inner cord dysfunctions, the diaphragm point will be extremely tender. And if you can get your diaphragm to function better, you're actually going to be stronger after that. So you rub that point for about 2 to 3 minutes. Then that's the one on the right. Then the one on the left is the navel. So if you rub around the belly button from the inside rim all the way out, pressing in pretty hard and going in circular motion, that's actually going to work your psoas point for your psoas muscle. It can be, this is the magic point for discomfort. And most people have some inhibition or weakness in their psoas muscle. And the psoas muscle is very unique because it's the only muscle to cross 3 zones in your body: your lumbar spine, your pelvis, and your hip. It actually stabilizes your lumbar spine. So let me ask you a question from a safety and vulnerability standpoint for your nervous system for strength. If that muscle has inhibition in it and it's weak, and it's supposed to stabilize your lumbopelvic hip complex, how much of a good idea do you think your brain is going to give you strength to do your deadlift or to do your power move? It ain't gonna, because it knows that muscle is not functioning efficiently. So that's where you're going to get hurt, or you're going to push yourself too hard and you're not going to win. You're going to get your ass kicked, first of all. But second, it's just not going to get you where you want to go. So what you do is you stimulate that point for 2 or 3 minutes. And that's right around a conception vessel neurological lymphatic channel there. And you do that for 2 or 3 minutes. You will notice an immediate change in your workout and how you feel when you do those 2 points. They are freaky voodoo points, man. I am not kidding you. I even wish I could explain to you exactly how they work. I don't even think anybody really knows. But all I know is when I rub that shit, I just feel a lot stronger.
Whoop, bear with us, guys. Seem to have lost Perry there. Can everybody else still hear me? Do type in and let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me see if I can reach out towards Perry.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear. Could you hear me?
Yeah. Where did I end off on?
It was along the lines of power. I feel strong. I feel power.
Yeah. So here we go. If I feel stronger and I think I feel stronger, am I stronger? Yes, you are. If you think you feel better, do you feel better? You do. So that's tapping into the power of your mind. So number 3, the next slide, you are going to stimulate the conception vessel, lymphatic stimulation of your sternum and your belly button. So What now? Next slide. What do I do now now that I have all this stuff? What's my first step to do? All right. Here's what you're going to do. I want you to, for yourself, you're going to do this for yourself first, have somebody test you with your WTF test. Thinking about somebody that's negative, bloodsucker, then think about somebody that's good. And you'll probably find it very funny that you'll find the bloodsucker quick, fast, and in a hurry, but you will struggle to find the positive person. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip. If you think about the positive person and you're still weak, here's a little news flash for you. They ain't so positive. So somewhere in your mind, your brain and nervous system knows this person is really not good for you, or you're not focusing enough. So that non-conscious feedback loop really lets you know it will never, ever lie to you. So try to find somebody that's really, really positive and locks it in. Then I want you to stimulate those lymphatic points for your diaphragm and your psoas. And then I want you to take advantage of your fascial tensioning from your grip especially. So if you have a lift that you've been struggling with, before you approach that lift, I want you to get your mind right and have no doubt about the lift. 2, stimulate the diaphragm and then the psoas point. 3, when you grab the bar, grab it from the outside 2 fingers is what I want you to do. All right. And then if you even give a little bit of a cross at your ankle and you squeeze out and just hold that for about 4 seconds and do that 4 times before you even approach the bar, that's gonna prime up your central system as well. And if you're working with an athlete or a client right now, flip the next slide. What I want you to do is I want you to think about today, what was the most useful for you? Even just one thing you can take back and begin to use with someone. The one thing I want you to take away from here is find someone that you can do this with. You probably already have somebody in mind right now, and I want you to go and do every single one of these, because you can't take my word for it. And how do you know if it works? You have to have something to base it off of. So you have to have a before, you have to have an intervention, and then you have to have an after. And I guarantee you, you will feel a difference immediately in your strength. And a lot of you will actually notice an immediate change in just your overall clearness of thought process. You're just in a better flow. It's more efficient. It's less effort. Next slide. These are all principles that are going to be in my upcoming book. So if you haven't ordered my book yet, you can go on Amazon.com and order Stop Chasing Pain. It's available for pre-order. I would be very honored and extremely grateful for you to do that. It's 20 years of my love of trying to figure out why of something based in that book. And it's like it says, it's a vital guide for healing your body and taking back control of your life from anything, but particularly from pain. And also with the next slide, you guys have the opportunity. You can join the movement. I have a membership-based website, stopchasingpain.com. It's called GoPro, where if you join, you get 250 videos of me and webinars and exercises and all sorts. If you enjoyed today, wait till you get behind there. I'm going to melt your brain. My mission there is to give you all the tools and share my never-ending passion for trying to help people and change the world through movement and these little strategies. I would love to have you all on board as well. So visit stopchasingpain.com. And then the last one, you'll get all my social media stuff through stopchasingpain.com, but you can pretty much find me anywhere. Seb knows I'm kind of like a virus. You just can't get rid of me. I'm all over the place, and I would love to have you join in on the fun and reach out to me any way you can. And that is it, my friend. I think we gave a few things today that people can use. What do you say?
I think we absolutely did. A few things that I use, especially the irradiation. I don't go anywhere without it. No lifting without irradiation for me, certainly. And definitely some other points. Guys and girls, we do have some Q&A. So if you got any questions, do please type them in. As you are typing them in, though, Perry, what's coming up for you this week? Are you taking a few days off after your travels, or are you still non-stop?
Yeah, I'm this weekend I'm hanging out, not doing anything. You know, it's Father's Day weekend, so I figured I'd chill. And then I'm going to be going to Nashville, Tennessee for a course, and then I've got the Netherlands coming up for me. And then I'm you can see where I'm going to be on my website. All my events are posted there. I'm actually doing a ton of stuff outside of the United States. I'm very excited to say that I've got a thing in Singapore coming up, and I'm launching a mentorship program where I'm actually going to be teaching people who want to learn how to teach my stuff, that they can do it, that they can be certified Stop Chasing Pain master instructors. And then just found out that I'm going to be part of a team that's going to be breaking out into China and unleashing stuff there. And I'm coming back for sure to the UK, brother. Absolutely. It'll be at Strength Matters on my birthday for another cake.
Have more cake. Walk around the hotel with cake. Make sure you book a couple of extra days, though. You know, not just the in and out, quick arrive and fly away. Make sure you spread. You know, give it a couple of days, man. We want to take you around town. I want to show you the sights and sounds of old London town. Cool. Well, we got some messages coming through.
Good, man. Fire away, man.
Interesting stuff. Definitely going to try this. And Martin going to say, thanks, Perry, for great cranium candy. I like that. I've never heard that one before. Cranium candy.
Cranium candy. Yep, I say that too. Brain candy, cranium candy, baby. That means they've been following my shit. That's good.
We got Christine saying awesome, Perry, thank you. Lorraine, epic, Perry, thank you. Chip, thanks. One of the best webinars. Samuel, boom, Perry, your inspiration. No, great. It's been an honor. Do let me know if I've said that wrong. I probably have. But we do have a question from Lindsay, and it is, if your right QL gets tight and spasms, then I need to look at the left side for problems, question mark. Any places to look at in particular?
Well, that's probably the biggest one. So muscle to muscle synchronization relationships are very important. You have to think about it like yin and yang. So your right QL is a yin, your left one is a yang. So those are probably the biggest ones that you go through. But the other one I would look at if people were asking is the psoas muscle, because the psoas muscle will in front will be a completely opposite functioning muscle of that one. And most people don't look there. So if you stimulate your psoas point on the belly button, you'll probably notice a relief of discomfort and pain in your QL. So with my, where you think it is, it ain't mantra, it's very simple. So if you treat where it hurts and it hasn't gotten better, sometimes it does, and that's awesome, right? But if you treat where it hurts and it doesn't, the easiest way to do it is if the back of your body hurts, look at something in the front of your body that doesn't work, and vice versa. If something on the right side of your body hurts, look on the left side of your body for something that doesn't work well but doesn't hurt. Those are the biggest tips that I can give anybody to start with first.
Wow. Well, yeah, I tell you what. Well, we got some things people have said, and I'm going to ask you a question. So, tell me if I'm saying this wrong again, but Guillemine, thanks. Might see you in, I'm not even going to pronounce that, but somewhere in July. Shirley, awesome webinar. Thank you. Alan is asking, thanks. Great webinar. Can't wait for the book. Any chance of it being out before next year? Is that when it's coming out, next year?
Yeah, January. No, there's no way, because it's got to be formatted and all that stuff. But yeah, trust me, some things will be worth the wait. First time you lose your virginity, and my book.
I wish somebody told me that first point earlier. And anyway, a couple of more questions. Doug, how does the nervous system granting strength work if you are currently injured, say a herniated disc? Do you have to wait for the injury to heal first before applying this approach?
No, you don't. But you have to regress back down to the ground to an area where you don't feel pain or discomfort when you move, which is what my program is based on. So the body is always wanting to heal itself, right? That's its mission. It's just that sometimes we're standing in its way. So when you have a pain and injury somewhere, you have to get out of the fear of movement because it's there. But you move all different body parts that don't hurt. So if your low back really, really hurts a lot and you can't move well, then you get down. For instance, you get down on the ground and you move your ankles, your wrist, your arms, your legs, you move everything else but that, and then that starts to feed forward back into the system of safety and stability, and then you can work your way back up. But I'm also going to contend the other way. I'm going to be contending that your disc got herniated because you haven't been safe and you haven't been stable for a long period of time, and that you have to go back now, and that's what we call regress to progress. So most of the exercises, in my clinical opinion, that people do for disc herniations, even though they're effective, they're way too progressive for someone's nervous system who feels vulnerable, and you have to take them way back down to the ground to where we all learned to move in the first place, and that's primal movement chains.
Mega. We've got a couple more questions coming in. Tony saying, thanks for sharing. You're very welcome. And Lindsay also saying, thanks. But Noah is asking, is it a good idea to use these strategies as part of a warm-up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You should definitely be the one you're probably going to use for the warm-up, like I said before, is definitely the Chapman points, because they're going to the fascial tensioning points too. So you rub the diaphragm and the belly button. They're called activation points. They're part of my system where we get the body activated for work, but you can also do that with grip, right? Just getting that area primed and worked up and ready to go. So I usually have people do a series of really tight grips and release, and same thing for the adductors, crossing the body. Or I said you could cross your ankles over each other. What you can do also is what I have people actually do is if you can do all of them at once. You just squeeze something like between your knees, like take a yoga block between your knees, and then you can stimulate your Chapman points at the same time, like your diaphragm and your belly button, so you can multitask. And then when you lock back and squeeze the outside two fingers, you're really going to prime that whole posterior chain. It's probably one of the biggest things that I showed in the UK over the weekend. We had somebody approach the pull-up bar, and I said, okay, let's just have you do a pull-up. And we watched her pull up regular. And then I wanted her to squeeze more with the three fingers, the thumb, index finger, and middle. And it got worse. And then when she squeezed with the outside too, she just nailed it. I mean, she went right up 1, 2, 3, because your body will pretty much tell you instantaneously that it likes something.
Cool. We got some more questions starting to flood in now. Where are we? So hold on, a bit just disappeared. Let me go down. So Will is asking, he's saying, I lost you a brief second describing the psoas point. So start at SC joint and all down sternum, then navel. Was there more for stimulating that line?
Yeah, so there's two different points. So when you go from the SC joint, which is your sternoclavicular joint, it's basically where your collarbone articulates and goes into below where your throat is. So you rub from there all the way down to the top of your rectus abdominis, which is basically your solar plexus, right? So you rub over the entire sternum from rib to rib. I mean, it's easily 12 inches long, and just rub the whole thing. That's one point. Then the second point is the psoas point. That's actually your navel or your belly button. So you start on the inside rim and you press straight back and do circular motions, and you work around from the inside rim to about an inch all the way around the belly button. And I'm not going to lie to you, that point can be god awful excruciating, and you'll feel like you want to vomit. That means you really need it. And I can guarantee you, if you move those 2 points and if you did a lift before you stimulated those points, then you did a lift, and then you stimulated this point, then the lift exactly right after that, I guarantee you your lift will feel completely different. If you don't believe me, you try it when you hang up.
Cool. Okay, we've got some more coming in, guys. Bear with me, because I'm basically going from bottom up. So, Gulliman again, how applicable are these concepts, strategies to distance running as opposed to just a few lifts?
Yeah, same way. So, I mean, say you want to get to go longer with running, right? Those stimulation points are going to prime you up no matter what, because when you run, you're going to have stability, right? But even more so, you don't want too much stability. You're going to have too much tension. So I would not really give fascial tensioning if I'm doing long distance running. I would do it for a sprint, because I'm gonna pile into it. But say you're getting into you want to prime up for your run, I would do it. But if say I've got to go for a 20-mile run, right? I mean, you're in a marathon and maybe you get to mile 10 or something. So that's when you can take advantage of that fascial tensioning in your hand. Just take your hand and squeeze your hand like that. That'll actually help power you a little bit further. And then if you can rub and run at the same time, then you rub those diaphragm points and you rub the psoas points at the same time. But you've also got to take into account what's your ultimate goal with harnessing fascial tensioning. Whether, like I said before, whether you're doing long distance or whether you're going to do sprinting. But the beautiful thing about these points when you do them, they can't hurt you. They can't harm you, all of these things. It's just tapping into how your nervous system functions and how it thinks. And basically you're giving the brain what it wants. And when you give it what it wants, it'll give you what you want.
Cool. Okay, we've got another one coming in from Lorraine saying, pain in my knees when I run or train, particularly on the reverse lunge. Should I look at the back too?
Yeah. So when you're going to lunge, particularly, the biggest things you're going to need in a lunge are your quads, obviously, right? And your ass. So most people who get knee pain, especially if it's on both sides, it's going to be a butt muscle that doesn't really function that well, or even a quad. So usually there's a few different ways you can determine which one it is. Unfortunately, I can't get into it here, but we show that stuff at the workshops, and we show things on the membership site as well. But if your knee, put it this way, whenever the knees hurt, the knees are very stupid. They only do what the foot will allow and the hip can control. So if the knees hurt, you've either got a problem with the ankle or you got a problem with stability in the hip. And the biggest muscle that should give you stability in your hip is your glute max. And just because it may look great, a great looking booty doesn't mean it functions well when you need it.
Gotta love good looking booties. That's for both sides. Women like good looking booties as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andreas, great seminar. Any plans of going to Sweden for a workshop? Any plans?
If anybody wants me there, all they got to do is if you go on the website, you can do if you're interested in hosting a workshop, there's a link on there that you can click, and it'll send you an email right to my assistant, Louisa, and boom, we can get you there. But I'll go anywhere that somebody's got passion and anywhere that people can get people on. I don't even say fill the seats, because we don't sit in chairs, because chairs kill your ass, your psoas, and your soul. We want to sit on the ground. So that's what we'll do. But I love this stuff so much that if you want me there, I'll be there.
Cool. Well, Andreas, there you go. Sort that out, buddy. Okay. We got loads of questions. Now you're all starting to come in. You were all shy a moment ago. Now, Jacob, do you think most mobility limitations are a cause of fascial tightness or joint immobility?
It's both. Yeah, you can't have one without the other. But both of those happen because you're not stable. So stability problems are underlying, mobility problems are underlying stability issues. So your body tightens up tissue. It's called a soft tissue extensibility dysfunction, or a TED. And then you've got joint mobility restrictions. So it's a hierarchy. Your body tightens up your fascia first. And then when you keep ignoring its signals, it progresses to joint compression. So then it locks down joints. So fascial tensioning and fascial restrictions come first, and then joint. So when you get a joint locked up, that means you've been unstable for a long period of time. You've been unstable around the area of the joint itself, but you've also been unstable in your central zone of your core, which we call zone 1 in my work. You have to fix both, or your mobility restrictions will keep coming back, because that was my question of, if it's a mobility restriction and you get it moving, why does it come back again?
Boom, there you go. Just a couple of things. Noah saying, amazing, thank you. Otto is saying, great webinar. Thanks for sharing. Otto, I'm so glad that you actually managed to join us and something worked. So that's awesome. What we got? We've got a question from Bo. Okay, bear with me. It's quite a long one. I'm not very good at sight reading. So one of my patients has had multiple cruciate ligament reconstructions. After 3 years of rehabilitation, he still has pain, in brackets, typical Artro's story. His strength, mobility, and stability are pretty much identical on both legs. Do you have any tips for pain management here?
Yeah, well, if you're gonna have, it's a good question. Anytime that you've had multiple surgeries, you're gonna have scar tissue, right? So a lot of times, just releasing the scar tissue in and of itself helps a lot with pain. But if somebody's got both knees that have an issue on there, I can pretty much guarantee you they've got no central stabilization in their midline. So the biggest place that I go to help people on that one is to help work with their breathing, because their inner unit is going to be awful, and beginning to get the breathing down can make a difference. And I'm going to be honest with you, if you just start to do those 2 points that I've mentioned before to rub, you'll probably make a difference with that pain. And it's going to be a longer road back because you've had surgeries and they're always going to have some side effect from the surgery. But I can tell you two things I've looked at. If somebody has a knee problem, they have no ass, they have no psoas, and they have dysfunctional breathing. Until you get those back, the knees will never come back, in my opinion.
Cool, cool. We got one more question, and I'm going to ask my own for once. From Cynthia. Pain in left sacroiliac joint. Where should I look first? Best regards from Mexico. First person from Mexico, I think. Great to have you, Cynthia.
Oh, wow. Mexico. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So first place I would look for SI joint, honest with you, is especially if they've had it for a while, to look at the fibula on the same side, particularly the head of the fibula, right where your iliotibial band attaches. The fibular head most often is stuck backwards. So if you work with that, you'll help the sacroiliac joint, because that helps transmit force from the ground up your leg and across the joint out into your opposite side shoulder. If that fibular head is stuck, then the force can't transmit, and then you're going to jam it up in through your pelvis. So that's the biggest tip I can give you.
Yeah. And my question, Perry, as you may know, and many of our listeners, if anybody here does listen to the podcast, may know, I am in a complete mess physically. Hips and lower back. My hips are super tight and painful. My lower back is super tight and painful. I can sit down for a Martin, good night, buddy. You take care. I sit down for a few moments and both are an absolute clip. What can I do, buddy?
Well, we know you lift a lot of heavy shit and you keep putting it up and putting it down. So, but for you, we got to work from inside out, man, from an explosion pattern out. So that's, for me, it's going to be starting with your neck and your diaphragm. We get those guys working well, then we'll get your back working well. Those two. Because if it's not your back, put it that way.
I tell you what, actually, was when I'm lifting, it doesn't hurt. It's normal. It's normal daily stuff. It's normal, mostly sitting down or standing up. But I can lift, I can deadlift, I can squat, no issues at all. But as soon as I start flexing those hips, my gosh, the inside of my thighs, I keep saying it's my psoas, but God, it's so tight, it's so painful. And then, of course, if I'm sitting down, my lower back is tight and painful as well.
Yeah, well, we tested your psoas when I was with you. I mean, they were tight, but they were very weak, so they're not stable. So when you lift, you're purposely bracing, right? I mean, you're being mindful of what you're doing.
Yep.
But during the course of the day, when you're going about your normal daily activities, you're not. So then your body falls apart because you're not giving that over stabilization. So for me, when you lift, I mean, you're at your best because you're really paying attention to what you're doing. That's the conscious attention to it. Where you're coming into your vulnerability is what I mentioned before. When you go about your activities of daily living, it's what's happening in the back of the mind that you're not paying attention to. That's supposed to be keeping you stable. And that's known as your reflexive core. That one we need to work on. And that's exactly where we were doing. And you need to stimulate those points yourself.
Cool. Happy days. Perry, it has been mega. Thank you so much. We've had a lot of appreciation messages coming through. Guys and girls, this will be up on the website, realstrengthmatters.com, in just about a week or so. Do please bear with me because there's a lot of technical things I need to do, and I'm sure many of you guys understand I'm not good with technical things. So it will be up, I promise you. You will be able to play this back. You will be able to hear it and take notes again. Thank you so much for coming to join us, guys. And do please carry on supporting us. Remember, guys, if you listen to the podcast, do please go on iTunes. Leave us a lovely little review. It does help us stand out. People can see us, and the information can help people like yourselves, just like this webinar did, as well as anybody else who hasn't heard of us as well. And I always appreciate reading some of the funny things people put up there. Will is just asking very quickly, very last one, is mentorship program info. Is that on the website?
Yeah, so if they go on my website, you'll see where it says join the movement or GoPro. You can click there, and that'll give you all the different levels that you can do for registering, and then what you get when you register, and then bam, you're automatically in, and you can start lighting up your brain right from the get-go. I put up a new video every single day, and then people can actually I do live stuff all the time through Facebook Live for the special group, so you get unprecedented access to my brain, which is kind of scary but exciting at the same time. Yeah.
Mega. I wonder if anyone wants unprecedented access to mine. Mega.
Maybe somebody. Yeah.
Loads of appreciation coming in from AC. Thank you both. Great stuff, Perry. Doug, thank you. SS, thank you. Cynthia, thank you. Guys, thank you very much. Remember, do look after yourselves. Do look after each other. From Perry and myself, stay mega and goodbye.
Bye, guys.